Welcome to GBALL Vision, everyone. I hope you are having a fantastic day today. We are talking about 7 fantastic everyday carry knives, and we are going to be covering a wide array of blade shapes and different locks, different styles, all kinds of stuff. And kicking us off is the Kaiser Assassins XL. This is one of Kaiser's previous button locks. It's not real old, but it's not a newer model either. They did an Assassins, which is a shortened down version of this exact knife. And then they came out with this one, which is a scaled up design. You have a nice drop point blade coming in 154 cm. It has Kaiser's high stone wash, high satin polish on it, which I am a huge fan of. It doesn't take wear very easily, and it continues to look good, and it doesn't take fingerprints either. So it's a very good coating, in my opinion, or a good finish on the blade. I like the little flat here and the swedge going to the tip. You have Kaiser's great green micarta here for your handle scales. You have a nice little backspacer with a lanyard hole incorporated. You do have a deep carry pocket clip that is going to be reversible, and I think it works very well with this design. It's almost all the way going to be buried in the pocket. And the other great thing about it is you do not feel that pocket clip in hand when you are squeezing or bearing down on this knife. You do not feel that pocket clip. So lefties will be able to enjoy this knife, righties, and it's got great ergos. It's got a nice clean aesthetic to it, good materials, and this is definitely a great budget offering or a more affordable offering. I wouldn't quite classify this as an all the way budget knife, but it's definitely a great EDC knife. Let's go ahead and get to the next one. Next up, we have the Black Mirror from Max Ace. This bad boy has a modified sheep's foot blade with like a stone wash satin finish. You have M390 on the blade steel. You have a nice pill shaped hole there. For your deployment options, you can thumb and reverse flick this guy out. You have a raindrop carbon fiber inlay here, bead blasted titanium finish. You have a geared titanium backspacer, titanium pocket clip, where they did put the Max Ace symbol and their branding there, which I don't have a huge issue with that when they keep the show side nice and clean. I'd prefer if they just did a little emblem there, but it's not a big deal at all. It's clean, it looks good, it's not real noticeable either. And then you have this brass pivot collar on both sides, which I think gives it a nice little touch. Very minimal hardware on the show side. You have no tolled hardware on the show side. And then you have very minimal hardware that is tolled on the clip side. You just have your pivot screw and one body screw. You have the lock bar screw, which you shouldn't need to mess with unless you're doing a crazy detailed clean. And then there is a hidden screw for the pocket clip. On this side, you have amazing access to that lock bar with incredible chamfer done on this thing. And this comes in right around 120, 130. And for that, that is an amazing deal on this knife. M390 titanium, carbon fiber inlay with amazing transitions, great access to the lock bar, titanium accents. It's just an incredible deal from Max Ace, and this is an awesome EDC knife. Let's get to the next one. Next up, we have the Vero Impulse. This bad boy has a stone washed Tanto M390 blade. You have a rear flipper tab that is nice and minimal and a window cutout that is great for the reverse flick. You have a blue anodized titanium pivot, backspacer, and pocket clip to kind of give this a nice little bit of pop. You have stone washed titanium handles, typical Vero aesthetic and build, which means it's going to be incredibly well done and well finished. Best Tech OEM. You have good access to the lock bar with the chamfer. Incredibly good action. It actually just cut me right there. This thing is insanely droppy and it has insanely good action. The edge is obviously very sharp. Let me pause that. So that definitely bit me pretty good. We'll keep rolling with it though. Definitely has a nice, useful blade shape. It's definitely a full size knife. The Tanto blade is going to be ultra, ultra useful in an EDC environment and a work environment. I love the aesthetic that Vero has with all his knives. We have one more coming up, so stay tuned for that. But this was the first run of the Synapse, and it is still running strong today, or the Impulse, I'm sorry, still running strong today, coming out with different versions, minis, different styles. Absolutely a wonderful EDC knife. Let's go ahead and get to the next one. Next up, we have an out the side auto. This is the Desert Warrior Boker Strike. You have the Tanto blade coming in D2. You have this like rose gold finish that's done on the blade. Not quite sure how well that would actually hold up. I know I have a Kalashnikov Desert Warrior with a similar coating, and it's pretty beat up. It has held up, but it definitely will get beat up in the course of some use, which, you know, that comes with the territory. When you buy a knife that has a coated blade or even non coated, they will get marked up if you use them and you use them a lot. It's just an inevitable thing. Uh, but for the guys who can have an auto or at least own an auto, this is an awesome, more affordable option. These come in at like 65, so 60 to 70 bucks depending on which version, where you get it, all that sort of thing. But having an LUDT from Microtech and a ProTech Godson, so having some out the side autos in as well as this one and comparing them, this one does have some very good action. For a $65 out the side auto, it's very, very hard to beat the action that this thing has. It's not quite up there with ProTech and Microtech, but you shouldn't be trying to hope this does have that kind of action. You know, for 60 bucks, comparing it to $300 knives, it's just not fair to this knife. But for the money, this is an awesome out the side auto. I have considered picking one up since getting this in to do some content on it. It has some nice grippy FRN scales with all kinds of different milling done on them. You do have this lock that prevents you from disengaging that button. So just a little added uh, protection, you know, if you're doing something a little harder with the knife or maybe something that you really shouldn't be doing, you can throw that lock up and kind of hope that it doesn't disengage on you. I wouldn't fully trust that slide up lock, but I think under certain scenarios, I think it would do you fine. It has a tab that slides up into that plunge area or that button lock style area, and it prevents you from pushing it down. So I think it would work pretty well under most circumstances. But you have a fairly deep carry clip. They did put the lanyard hole over top of the pocket clip, which I'm not the biggest fan of. They should have just kind of put that in the back spacer or made an extra standoff for it, something like that. Because it kind of, if that was finished solid, I think it would look very, very good. And it still looks very, very clean. I just wish that lanyard hole wasn't kind of optimized over that pocket clip. But for $65, if you want to get into an out the side auto that doesn't break the bank, this is definitely one to take a look at, opposed to looking at the Kalashnikov series. But this has become my favorite, or one of my favorite out the side autos under $100. It is absolutely phenomenal. Let's get to the next one. Next up, we have the 3V exclusive Towser K Mini button lock. This thing is absolutely incredible. It has some of the best button lock action that I have ever felt. It's right up there with the Rift. It's right up there with the Wii Exiton, the CJRB Rift, and the Wii Exiton, the Hogue EX01. It's right up there with them. It almost feels like you have an actual detent with this guy. So you have a sheep's foot or modified sheep's foot 3V blade with Kaiser's satiny finish on it, like a high polished satin finish. I hate that they keep their logo there, but what can we do? Pill-shaped hole for your deployment options. This is a great righty and lefty style knife. I have no problem actuating this thing with the left hand, and you will be able to reverse that pocket clip so lefties can carry it lefty if they choose to. Uh, this thing is phenomenal. My finger keeps hitting the button because I'm not used to shooting this lefty, but they run jimping up the spine of this knife, and it is just comfortable as hell. When you are in that choked up position with that 50-50 area here, this is a phenomenal EDC knife. It comes down nice and thin. You have almost a full flat grind on this guy. 3V is going to be ultra, ultra tough stuff. The pocket clip, it's another Kaiser pocket clip. It's well done. Typical rollover steel clip. You have the rich light style handles, which, I like them. They're unique, they're different. You don't see a lot of the rich light stuff, but it's like a honeycomb rich light. I think it's some good stuff, and I've gotten more used to it, and I've actually started to like the rich light style handles. That is the Kaiser Towser K Mini 3V button lock, an exceptional EDC knife. Next up, we have a very unique one. This is the Max Ace Rock. It has an M390 trailing point Persian style blade. You do have thumb studs and a flipper tab for your deployment options. This is if you want to get a unique knife that's still going to get the job done. The point that trails up like that, it's not the best thing for like draw cuts, which, given the right geometry and having a good edge on it, you still could do some pretty good draw cuts with something like this, and it would be very good for like push cuts. You definitely can do some poking type tasks with this style of blade. It's a unique blade shape that will get most jobs done. Is it going to be the easiest blade shape to work with? No, I wouldn't recommend this style of blade for someone who is brand new to knives or brand new to collecting. For a user, if you want something that's unique, then definitely. I would say this blade shape is for someone who is a lot more experienced with knives, and how to go about using a trailing point like this. But for a unique, different looking knife, this thing is awesome. It's got incredible ergos because of the lines of this knife. It just melts into the hand. The opening options are phenomenal. I love how they did these thumb studs. They're very unique. You don't see those very often, how these ones are done. You do have titanium with a white G10 inlay here, titanium backspacer, integrated lanyard hole, a titanium pocket clip that is lower mounted with two Torx heads here. It is a liner lock with great access, a chamfer, and jimping on that bad boy. definitely a unique knife, and I have become a pretty big fan of the Max Ace Rock. Let's get to the next one. So I told you there'd be another one. Here is the Vero Engineering Synapse XL. And getting this knife in on loan is what made me decide to ultimately get the one that I have now. It is the best Vero in my opinion, and I have the Axon, I have the Synapse, I have the Impulse, and this one is the one that does it for me. I'm not saying it's the best one for everyone, but it is my favorite and the best one for me. Now, I do love a sheep's foot blade, but this drop point is just outstanding. I love it. It comes down nice and thin. It's pretty tall. It's just it's so clean looking, so well finished. You have stonewashed titanium bolsters. This is a bolster lock in titanium. You have the Jade G10 inlays here, titanium pocket clip, and backspacer. Vero's work just kind of speaks for itself, and this is going to be similar to the Impulse in that it has a nice minimal rear flipper tab that works extraordinarily good, and then you have a window cutout for your reverse flick. This is my favorite Vero of all time, and in my opinion, the best one of all time. I love this thing. It's an amazing EDC knife. It's an incredible gentleman style knife too. It's just nice and clean, looks good. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more in a pocket knife than what Vero offers. Right up to EMP EDC, Vero is one of my favorite designers. I love his work, his designs. They speak for themselves, and his ability to create unique looking designs is off the chart. Love Vero's work. That was 7 fantastic EDC knives. I hope you enjoyed that one. Give the video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. If you're new here and not subscribed, hit that subscribe button for me because I bled just for you, baby. I'll throw up 2 new videos for you to go check out. Highly recommend going and checking those out. Otherwise, guys, I will catch you on the next one.